France 24's Claire Paccalin now joins me live from the courthouse in central Paris. Hi, Claire. Perhaps you could, tell us what's been happening in the courtroom so far today.
The judge opened the proceedings with a statement saying that she understood that this was another big challenge for the family members of the victims. This trial, which will last around 2 months, is another challenge for them, and they've already been through an awful lot. She also said, the judge said, that this case was particularly complex from a legal point of view, but also from a technical point of view. We also heard from the Director General of Air France. She said that this was very painful, that this memory of this crash was etched in the memories of the staff at Air France, and that she had deep compassion for the family members of the victims. And we heard from the director of Airbus as well, who said that this was a painful moment, and he says that with sincerity, and that he himself, as the director of Airbus, is obsessed with security for passengers and for personnel, and that he wakes up in the morning, looks at his phone and checks to see if any Airbus aircraft may have had an accident, because it's something that he takes extremely seriously. We also heard from the lawyer of one of the lawyers for the civil party. So these are the family members of the victims, the people who were killed in that crash. And the lawyer who spoke at that moment said that they were determined to argue for a causal link between the actions of Air France and Airbus and the accident itself. Now, a lot of this revolves around the role of the pitot tubes. So these are these speed sensors which malfunctioned on the aircraft. And in the first trial, we saw that the court ruled that Airbus and Air France did bear responsibility for some acts of negligence and for some failings, but they were not criminally responsible for the crash. Of course, a completely different verdict could come out of this trial. This is the appeals trial.
And how much do we actually know about how this crash happened? What happened?
Well, because we've already have one trial, we know rather a lot. The two black boxes were retrieved from the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean 2 years after the crash, and what we understand is that the pitot tubes, so these are these speed sensors which are very important elements on an aircraft. They're called pitot tubes because it was a French engineer called Henri Pitot who managed to invent them 300 years ago. Then that was for measuring the velocity, the speed of rivers. Now they're a crucial element on aircraft, and we understand that the aircraft was in a high altitude thunderstorm. The pitot tubes got stuck and clogged with ice, and that caused them to malfunction. So the pilots had incorrect readings as to the speed of the aircraft. Then the aircraft's autopilot system failed, which meant the pilots had to manually take control of the aircraft. They lost control, and the aircraft crashed into the Atlantic Ocean off the north coast of Brazil. So for the family members of the victims, they've already been through one trial. Many have decided to be civil parties in this trial too. For them, they have argued, and their lawyers have argued, that Airbus failed to raise the alarm about malfunctioning pitot tubes, and they've also argued that Air France failed to prepare its pilots properly so they would know what to do if they found themselves in such a situation. Air France, though, and Airbus have always maintained that they do not bear criminal responsibility and that they are not guilty of involuntary homicide or manslaughter.
OK, Claire, we'll have to leave it there. Claire Paccalin there speaking to us from the court in central Paris. We will have more as that trial proceeds here on France 24.